Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of our Thrive in China Roundtable. For those of you, excuse me, who are not familiar with our Thrive in China Roundtable, this is a concept we have developed to educate and inform people on the latest administrative measures in both Hong Kong and China. We hold these roundtables every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central European Time on a variety of different topics surrounding corporate administration in both jurisdictions of Hong Kong and China. A little bit about ourselves. Woodburn Accountants and Advisors is one of China and Hong Kong's most trusted business setup and corporate administration advisory firms. We specialize in foreign investment into China and Hong Kong. 100% of our clients are foreign investors that are looking to expand within the APAC region. We focus predominantly on corporate administration services, ranging from trademark registrations, employer of record services, all the way through to incorporations, accounting, tax, and payroll functions, corporate governance, etc. Every client is at a different stage of their market entry into China, and so our goal and objective is to tailor make our services to fit their needs. A little bit about myself. My name is Christina Kohler-Colucci. I'm the head of business advisory at Woodburn Accountants and Advisors. I've helped over 750 companies with their market entry, their implementation, as well as their growth and scaling in the Chinese market. Again, offering the very same services that we offer our clients. Basically, we see our clients in three different stages. One is in the formation stage. The next is in corporate administration and ongoing support services. And the third one is really the growth and the scaling in the market. Let me just go back to the slide. If you would like to connect with me on WeChat, please do so. You have the QR code to my WeChat account, so don't hesitate to connect with me. So today we're going to be talking about invoicing insights in China, navigating China's Fapiao system in 2024, and the most recent changes that have occurred and how these can be implemented from a practical perspective. Before we do that, again, for those of you that maybe are in the market entry phase, just a few slides on what is a Fapiao, right? And to give you a bit of an understanding of what that looks like. So what is a Fapiao? Now, a Fapiao refers to an invoice. It refers to the fact that there's a receipt and payment that has occurred in the domestic market. It is an invoice that is for the purchase of goods and services, as well as for the sale of goods and services. So if you have a company registered in China, then you will have your suppliers or third-party providers or anybody who's offering you goods and services. They will issue you a Fapiao, which is an invoice, and it confirms a transaction. It does not necessarily confirm receipt of cash, but it does confirm a transaction. And if you as a company in China are looking to transact with other providers, with customers basically in China, then you are going to issue a Fapiao as well. Now, the tax authorities in China are responsible for the management of invoices throughout the country. If you guys have any questions on this, please do insert that into the chat box, all right? Now, who is the issuing organization of a Fapiao? So special VAT Fapiaos are printed by companies that are determined by the State Council to be able to issue them. Other Fapiaos might be determined by the tax authorities in the various municipalities, cities, provinces, etc., to be able to issue Fapiaos. What I want to highlight on this slide is that it is prohibited to print Fapiaos for private use. It is prohibited to print or to forge Fapiaos. It is also prohibited to alter Fapiaos. Okay, so if you have a Fapiao, it is really related to company transactions, Okay, if I'm in a taxi and I get a Fapiao, that is then provided by the taxi driver for personal use, generally for reimbursement of expenses. If you get a Fapiao, it is illegal to forge it. And I do highlight that because there are black market paper Fapiaos available. And it is also illegal to alter a Fapiao. You have to cancel a Fapiao to then reissue a Fapiao. What's included in the Fapiao? Basically, what's included in the Fapiao is all the details regarding the seller, all details regarding the buyer of the goods or services. You will have all bank account information, and then you will have a description of what the good or service is, quantity, price, VAT amount, total amount, okay? And generally speaking, you will have the invoicing company, and I'll show you pictures of what these look like. You'll have the invoicing company, invoicing chop, or company chop that is on there. Now, why are Fapiaos important? Ultimately, Fapiaos are important for a number of different reasons. If you are an individual in China and you have certain allowances that are being offered to you, then Fapiaos provide proof of payment for those allowances, and you then need to provide those Fapiaos to your company in order to be able to get reimbursed. This is obviously for allowances that are provided domestically in China. If you are provided allowances that are overseas, I don't know, like overseas insurance, then you're getting obviously a normal Western invoice that you can then submit for reimbursement. But if you're talking about domestic payments or domestic allowances, they have to be supported by Fapiaos. It also serves as a crucial foundation if, for example, you buy a computer as an individual and you realize you need it to be repaired, or there's a guarantee that is being offered, then you need to have the Fapiao in order to bring it back to the repair shop or to exchange it or to return it. Now, for companies, now a lot of times, I also want to highlight this, you might go into stores where, or you might also talk to landlords who say, well, if you're okay with me not giving you a Fapiao, then I can give you a cheaper price, but you then also have to pay me in cash. This still happens in China. I just want to highlight that. Just keep in mind, you can't use those things then for reimbursement with your company. And you also don't have any proof in any shape or form that you have provided cash or that, think these things are happening. So be wary of that as well. Now, for companies, Fapiaos are basically the documents that are utilized by the tax bureaus to assess that your company is in compliance. It is a methodology that is utilized by the tax authorities to show that you are a company that is in good standing. Okay, so Fapiaos are critical. This also leads me to audits. When you audit your company at the year end, it is really important that you have all of the Fapiaos recorded, saved, and I'll talk about the whole storage aspect of Fapiaos, that they are saved, because this is what your auditors are going to be looking at. It's the agreements together with the Fapiaos, not the pro forma invoices, not the additional documentation that you might create to create your standard operating procedure. It is ultimately what they are assessing, and based on your revenue, based on your cost of goods or services, and based on your general administration expenses. Now, if a company suffers a loss of goods, it can use the Fapiao to claim compensation from an insurance company. Basically, the Fapiaos are utilized to protect your business from insurance companies, from logistics companies, warehouse companies, from whomever, okay? One of the things that I'll highlight on this slide is just a liquidation that we have been in the process of doing for a client of ours, a manufacturing client of ours. Now they do 100% export, and there was not an internal standard, especially in the startup of their business, there was no standard procedure in terms of having all of the Fapiaos of goods being imported, customs declarations of goods being imported, purchasing of raw materials, and export. When it came down to the liquidation and an audit was done to verify whether there was any outstanding tax liabilities, it was discovered that there was a discrepancy in the first year of operation in terms of goods coming in, goods being manufactured, goods being sold. And until we had the proper documentation and the proper reasoning why there was this discrepancy, the company couldn't be liquidated. So it's really vital to have all of these pieces in place and make sure you are creating that standard operating procedure to protect your business. Now, government. Why are Fapiaos important for the government? Fapiaos are basically a financial management tool. VAT is a tax revenue for the various tax bureaus around China. They rely on VAT as a source of income to support China as a whole, and they are enforcing the collection of this. And when I go through the regulatory updates, you will see how digitalized and easier it is going to be for the tax bureaus to verify that Fapiaos are being issued by various parties, yourself included, that there's the receipt of Fapiaos as well, and that there's a tracking methodology. Ultimately, with the whole digitalization of Fapiaos, we see that we're going into an area of AI, of automation within the accounting industry and accounting sector. And on top of that, an easier ability for the tax officers to verify the VAT tax payments. So let's talk a little bit about the regulatory updates. And certainly in the last year, there have been tremendous changes. So very short history. Fapiaos invoicing system. There used to be paper Fapiaos, literally pieces of paper that you had to purchase from the tax bureaus. We then went into e-Fapiaos, and this was something that I spoke about in 2023 quite a lot because there was an integration nationwide of companies going into the e-Fapiao system. Since then, we are now in the fully digitalized e-Fapiao world, okay? There is a slight difference between e-Fapiaos and digitalized e-Fapiaos, okay? We are now in the digitalized e-Fapiao realm. I, for example, as I was preparing for this presentation, didn't even know about this digitalized e-Fapiao because once you are in the e-Fapiao system, you are automatically put on a platform where you are in the digitalized e-Fapiao realm. So nobody actually updated me or informed me of it because really there's no differences. It's just it's a matter of being now put onto a platform that I will explain a little bit on later, okay? What I want to highlight really on this slide is that as of December 1st, 2023, the whole pilot, I mean, we're all still calling it a pilot program. I don't know why, but the whole pilot program of this digitalized e-Fapiao has now spread nationwide. Tibet was added in December, and this is 2 years ahead of the original timeline. It was supposed to be that by December 31st, 2025, it would be implemented nationwide. It has been implemented as of December 1st, 2023, nationwide. That means all companies throughout the world are in the digitalized e-Fapiao realm. Now, what does this mean? It means that there is also a nationwide unified e-invoicing service platform, okay? Now, I'm making it seem very glamorous here on this slide. It's not a glamorous platform. In fact, there are still a lot of technical issues in terms of accessibility, in terms of efficiency, etc. But there is now this platform that is accessible by everybody. It's a 24-hour online service to issue, to deliver, basically these digitalized e-Fapiaos free of charge. What this basically means is that if you were set up prior to this phase, you would have equipment that was given to you by the tax bureaus, which included a golden tax USB stick, a tax control USB stick, a tax U-key tool that actually currently is no longer required. However, again, I say no longer required because that is the spiel that the government is basically outlining to everybody. But we have found that, first of all, we are still keeping all of this equipment just in case until our tax officer tells us to return it. Okay, so don't now throw things away. Tell your staff you don't need certain things. If you've not had direct instructions from your tax officer, do not do anything. It could very well be that as a company, you are not yet on the service platform because it's not your turn yet with the tax bureau, but you are issuing digitalized e-Fapiaos. So although the spiel is, as of December, nationwide, everybody is on it, there are still going to be some companies that are dealing with paper Fapiaos. There are still going to be companies that are dealing with e-Fapiaos, and there are still going to be companies that are doing the digitalized e-Fapiao, which is issued through this service platform. So currently, I do have a slide on here, how many different types of Fapiaos there are right now on the market, but I just want you to be aware that this is the direction we're going into, where hopefully by next year, we will only have two types, or yeah, there might be several others, but two basic types of digitalized e-Fapiaos that are used for trade transactions and service transactions. Now, the whole point of this golden tax system phase 4 is that with the digitalized e-Fapiao, the Chinese government is moving into digital upgrades and intelligent transformation, which is all well and good, and I'm thrilled by this. I even have my accountants that are thrilled by this. We have spoken with tax officers that are all thrilled by this. There is still, though, this issue that systems go off or it takes forever to upload data. So I do want to highlight that the systems are not bulletproof. It's still a bit of a mix and match whether they're functioning properly. Now, what does this mean from an operational strategy point of view? And I wanted to provide you with pictures. So you might not even find any differences. But basically, this is what a fully digitalized general VAT e-Fapiao looks like on the left side. On the right side, it is a fully digitalized special VAT e-Fapiao. Now, I haven't actually touched on this. What is the difference between the two? Basically, if you are a general VAT taxpayer, you are issuing invoices that are on the left. If you're a small-scale taxpayer, you are issuing invoices that are on the right. And if you are on the service platform, this is what those e-Fapiaos look like and that are going to be produced from the fully digitalized e-Fapiao service platform. Okay? If you are in the e-Fapiao realm, then this is what the e-Fapiaos look like. I've mixed it up. Special VAT e-Fapiao, so if you're a small-scale taxpayer, is on the left. General VAT taxpayer is what it looks like on the right. And again, you have all of this information that needs to be injected in there. You also have a software. So for this, you'll have a software system where you input all the data. With the digitalized e-Fapiao system, things should be simplifying themselves in regards to data entry, in terms of supplier data entry, customer data entry, etc. But that is all pretty much the same as if you were using the regular VAT software system. Now, legal effect. Whether you have, I've got notes here, so I just want to make sure I remember everything. So let me just go back to the previous slide so you can see the digitalized general VAT e-Fapiao and the digitalized VAT, special VAT e-Fapiao. So basically, all of these Fapiaos still today have legal effect. In fact, paper Fapiaos are also still in effect. And I want to highlight that because there are still companies that are issuing paper Fapiaos, okay? The difference obviously is with paper Fapiaos, you would buy the booklet from the tax bureau and each sheet had 3 sheets, one that was kept by you, one that was kept by your customer, and one that was kept by the tax bureau. Now, obviously, with the digitalized general VAT e-Fapiao, there are no hard copies, right? What I do want to highlight, though, is that it is a requirement that you keep all Fapiaos for a period of 10 years. And the regulation does say you need to keep hard copies. There is no update on that you can maintain soft copies. In addition, when you do your audits at the end of the year, the auditors want to see the booklets of vouchers. And as a consequence, even though you've got fully digitalized general VAT e-Fapiaos and special VAT e-Fapiaos, you still have to print out these e-Fapiaos and keep them in your accounting records. So please do remember that. As you can see on this sheet, as well as you can see on the other sheets, there are quite a few details that have to be input. This is input through the soft service platform or through your VAT software system. Please remember that a minor error, i.e. you've forgotten a character, you've forgotten a bank account number, whatever, it means that these Fapiaos need to be cancelled to then be reissued. And that is still the same with the digitalized general VAT e-Fapiaos, okay? So if there is human error, please do be aware that you have to cancel and then update. There are 9 types of Fapiaos currently available in China, okay? There is the special VAT Fapiao paper, special VAT e-Fapiao, and the digitalized special VAT e-Fapiao, which is issued through the service platform, as I mentioned earlier. Then you've got and all those 3 would be if you're a small scale taxpayer. General VAT invoice paper, general VAT e-Fapiao, digitalized general VAT e-Fapiao. All those 3 are if you're a general VAT taxpayer. The direction is that items 1 and 2 will be removed by next year, even by this year, guys, the way they're going through it. And then the 4 and 5 will also be revoked, that everyone would just be on the digitalized special VAT e-Fapiao or the digitalized general VAT e-Fapiao. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but there are also 2 different types of Fapiaos when you sell cars, motor vehicles, or used cars. And they have special Fapiaos for that. I do not know the update on that. That's not an expertise that I've got in relation to that. And then you've got other special Fapiaos, which can be anything in relation to e-tickets for railways, transportation, planes. You go to a scenic spot or tourist spot and you get a Fapiao. All those special Fapiaos might not be what you see in terms of the digitalized special VAT Fapiao, right? But I want to say places like restaurants now are in this digitalized special general VAT Fapiao realm, okay? So it really comes down now to where you're looking at, but they might just look different depending on where you are going in China. Now, from an operational perspective, what does it look like in terms of the procedures that you have to think about in terms of the digitalized e-Fapiao? The first one is no equipment. That means if you are a newly registered company in China, you won't get any equipment from the tax bureau. And by equipment, I mean you won't get a printer. So when you were in the paper realm, you have to actually purchase a special printer to print Fapiaos. You need to get the VAT software system. You then have to also get all of these USB key tools to log in. Currently now, you just have to set up an account and a code on the national e-invoicing service platform, okay? Again, easing everything. And that also means, especially when I look at my own accounting team, is if somebody goes on vacation, I don't have to pass tools to other people within the company. Basically, everybody, you have to just create account name, password, and you log into the invoicing service platform. So whoever has that information can log in to then issue the digitalized e-Fapiaos or can control your VAT payables as well. The Fapiao number automatic assignment system. So what I mean by that is that when you used to buy the paper Fapiaos booklets, on them there would be a number. Actually, let me see if it's on this one. No, but I can kind of highlight where it would have been. These are the special VAT e-Fapiaos which resembled still the paper Fapiaos. And basically, you would have here, under the QR code, you would have here a Fapiao number. and it would be a rolling number based on the booklet that you purchased. Now, when we are saying that the Fapiao number is automatically assigned, it means that when you are on this National E-Invoicing Service platform, the numbers are just generated from the system in terms of the number of the Fapiao, and you just record that in your accounts, okay? So it makes it very easy to manage. Now, why for me is this important? And this is important because when we liquidated a company about 10, 15 years ago, they lost their paper booklets of Fapiaos. And basically the penalty for losing Fapiaos was the amount associated with that Fapiao. In those days, the amounts were either each sheet was up to 10,000 RMB or each sheet was up to 100,000 RMB. And if you lost them, you were liable per sheet that you lost to that amount. So our clients at that time had a Fapiao booklet, 10,000 was the value per sheet. I think they lost maybe 12 or 13. That was a penalty of about 130,000 RMB. All right, they wouldn't liquidate the company until that penalty was cleared. Now there is no tracking methodology. Your company doesn't have a sequence of numbers that are being utilized. The e-Fapiaos, you were actually also generating numbers that were being given to you to track the Fapiaos. Now it's just, you want to issue a digitalized e-Fapiao, the number of the Fapiao is going to pop into the system and automatically it'll be associated with you. And you will not have sequential numbers. I hope that makes sense. I know this is really going into the nitty-gritty details, but for us as accountants, this is big, big stuff. Now, the biggest thing is managing the total amount of Fapiaos based on the taxpayer's credibility. So again, I have to give you a little bit of history. Previously, you could buy paper Fapiaos booklets where you had between 25 and 50 sheets in those booklets. And you're only allowed to purchase a booklet once a month, which meant that basically when you think about it, 10,000 RMB per sheet, 25 sheets, 250,000 was all you could issue in Fapiaos to customers in that month, okay? We then went into the e-Fapiao realm, and in the e-Fapiao realm, you were given a quota, and usually there were two numbers that were always being said. It was either a quota of 750,000 RMB per month or 1 million RMB per month of e-Fapiaos that you could issue in that month. Currently, with the digitalized e-Fapiao system, they are looking at your credibility, okay? They are looking at your risk level, your credit rating, your social credit rating. They are looking at the amount of transactions that you're doing. Ultimately, if you are a company that is in good standing, you will have unlimited amount that you can issue each month, okay? And again, I want to highlight that this is still in the pilot phase, okay? It also means you have unlimited amounts per, I mean, you're only issuing basically one digitalized e-Fapiao to your customer, not multiple ones. There's no value that you're limited to on that e-Fapiao, which means if you got a transaction of 1.1 million in a month, you can issue that digitalized e-Fapiao for 1.1 million. And again, I want to highlight that this is huge. We did have clients who had multi-million-dollar contracts and as a result could not issue all the necessary Fapiaos in a month and had to roll them over into the following months. And if you have a policy internally where you say that, we issue the Fapiao and then you pay us, you know, they're waiting for payment basically, right? So I want to highlight all of this because it's really important that people understand this concept of this freedom to be able to issue unlimited amounts of Fapiao, unlimited amounts of invoices of these digitalized e-Fapiaos, but also unlimited amounts on each of those. So now, again, there are going to be much more convenient ways in the next couple of years to issue, deliver, and verify Fapiaos. One of them is the diversified channels to issue the Fapiaos. So as I said, we've got this e-invoicing service platform. In the future, there may even be terminals. So if you're not in the office, there may be terminals where you can, terminals meaning like computer terminals, where you can go and issue Fapiaos immediately, digitalized e-Fapiaos. There may even be a mobile app available that through your phone, you can get onto this service platform and issue the e-Fapiaos. So you're no longer reliant on being in your office or having, with the software systems, you had to make sure that the software system was on a server, that it was protected. Now you're going to be really going through a much easier access to be able to issue the Fapiaos. Then you've got the one-stop e-invoicing service platform that I highlighted already, meaning that you log onto this platform and you can issue, you can deliver, and you can verify the Fapiaos through this one single service platform. Then you've got more widely applicable Fapiao data. So taxpayers' tax digital accounts on the e-invoicing service platform will automatically collect invoice data for inquiry, downloading, and printing by the taxpayers. And basically, again, with one software system, you're putting in the info of your suppliers, you're putting in the info of your customers, and you don't have to re-input all of this data. The beauty is also that there are no specific digital formats required when you issue these Fapiaos. With the paper Fapiaos, it was original paper. With the e-Fapiaos, you could only deliver it in a PDF or OFD format. And now you can deliver it actually in any format you like, and you can send it directly by email from the system. You can take a QR code of that Fapiao and send the QR code. You are definitely a hell of a lot more flexible in terms of how you are sending that invoice. Okay. And ultimately, the last one, unblocked channel to access tax services. Ultimately, the e-invoicing service platform will have interactive features where you have smart consulting, or if you want to cancel an invoice, it will be a much quicker step. And in fact, it would be automated so that you could reissue the invoice. My only fear with this last step is that they downsize tax officers, and that the assumption is that all of your questions can be answered through this e-service platform. I don't know. I had a talk with my accountants on whether they would like that or not. For many of our junior accountants who are still learning the Chinese GAAP system, having the ability to talk to tax officers directly and ask the necessary questions that go into concrete conversations, there is something that is so invaluable with that. For our senior accountants who know how things work and are more experienced, okay, you've got the flexibility of this smart system, but a lot of them are still old-fashioned and still like to pick up the phone and contact the tax officer and raise questions. So for the last one, I'm a little bit worried that what we are seeing is that China is going to minimize the tax officers in the various tax bureaus. And if you do run into dilemmas, who do you call? Excuse me. And this is where I am, I do have a slight fear, but it's not happening yet. So let's take advantage of it as we grow, and let's see where that leads us. What is the trend that we are seeing is that with this e-invoicing service platform, it will be accessible and will come as extensions to your ERP systems that you are using in China. So for example, if you're using a Kingdee accounting software system, then the e-invoicing service platform will be connected with your Kingdee system. It will also be connected with Ufida, Yongyo, and any other of those systems. One of the big takeaways I do want people to get from this is that we are going into a very digitalized realm when it comes to accounting. So when you are thinking about invoice reimbursement, invoice entry, filing, etc., there is this integration of software systems where in the end, You might only have to log into one system. Everything is already integrated and you do everything through that one system. Now, what are the complexities and what are we seeing as some pitfalls that might arise? So one of them for me is the lack of tax officers that might be around. The pro of all of this is that it is going to reduce the workload that the accountants have to do. We are in a very old-fashioned accounting perspective, even compared to Western standards, in terms of the filing and paperwork that needs to be stored. I think in the end of the day, the trend I think that they want to go into is that you have a more efficient, more easy running of your finance department and your finance team when it comes to issuing or receiving Fapiaos. It is not reducing the workload in terms of printing out these bloody Fapiaos. You still have to print out your invoices and make sure that you're vouchering them and putting them in your accounting records. And like I said here, you need to keep all of your accounting records for a period of, you need to keep your accounting records for a period of 5 years. You need to keep your digitalized e-Fapiaos for a period of 10 years. Okay, so you do have to think about storage capacity. Now, a question that I would have is, what about if we digitally stored these, I don't know, in PDF format on your servers? I do not know if that counts. I only know that the printing counts and that the auditors want to see the original printouts. They're not going to go on your computers and look at digitalized versions of everything. Now, where are we seeing the downfalls? The downfalls really are in terms of the processing and archiving of all of the fully digitalized e-Fapiaos. And then you also have to think about now your standard operating procedures. So when you are issuing invoices, you have the option of functioning in a couple of ways. One way is that you say to your customer, and I'm only doing the route to customer, okay? But you can utilize the same thought process with your suppliers. So you've got a customer. You can say to your customer, listen, I'm going to issue you my digitalized e-Fapiao, and then I want payment. And the payment terms might be 30, 60, 120 days. Okay, just keep in mind, it's still the same system. The minute that you issue your digitalized e-Fapiao, you've got VAT payable, regardless of whether money has arrived from your customer or not. The other alternative is that you say to your customer, I'm going to issue you a pro forma invoice. Once I've received payment, I will then issue you the digitalized e-Fapiao. Okay? Now, you've got to think about it in this way. If you issue the digitalized e-Fapiao up front and wait for payment, this is the accrual system. If you are waiting for payment and then issuing the e-Fapiao, that's basically you're doing your accounting based on cash account. You're waiting for payment to be received. There's no right or wrong here. I think it really comes down to the payment terms that you're negotiating with your customers. Do you prefer to get your money up front? But then you've also got to think about your just standard supply chain operations. When are goods going to be delivered? Are goods delivered first and then payment, or is payment received and then goods are delivered? Okay, and then it all comes down to returns and discounts, credit notes, etc. Credit notes are separate from the whole Fapiao system. Okay. What I want people to think about when we're looking at this whole digitalized e-Fapiao system is to actually take a piece of paper and look at your supply chain. Where are suppliers based? Where are customers based? You've got this Chinese entity. All right. How is payment going through? When you have this diagram highlighting your transactions and the different types of transactions you might have, you might make exceptions for certain companies, you might not, but you have to outline the flow for the different types of transactions and really show this to your finance team, to your logistics team, to your supplier team, to your sales team, to make sure that everybody is on the same page about what are the standard operating procedures in terms of how you are going to function. Okay. I got an email today from a client of mine who asked me, what are what are the standard operating procedures in my company in regards to inquiries, proposals, sales confirmations, and Fapiao invoicing. And I said, well, I'm just your accountant. I actually don't know that procedure. Nobody has instructed us on what that procedure is. This is a question you have to ask your internal team about how to create that system, and is there that track record? From an accounting perspective in China, I don't need to know when you send out an inquiry. I also don't need to see the proposal, and I certainly don't need to see the sales confirmation. I just need the Fapiao when that is being issued. And then it's also an internal decision to say, when do we issue that digitalized e-Fapiao? Prior to product delivery, payment first, what are your terms and conditions on all of these aspects? And there is no right or wrong here. It is an internal decision on how you are doing this document flow. Now you replicate that with suppliers, okay? What are your terms and conditions with your suppliers? Do you want to first receive a digitalized e-Fapiao from them and then you'll make payment? Are you going to receive a pro forma invoice, make payment, and then you'll get the digitalized e-Fapiao? And remember that from an accounting perspective, you are booking in your revenue the e-Fapiaos that you're issued. This hasn't changed, whether it was Fapiao, paper Fapiaos, e-Fapiaos, or digitalized e-Fapiaos. You are booking revenue based on the Fapiao that you're issuing. You're calculating costs of goods based on the Fapiaos that you're receiving. You are booking your general and administration expenses based on the Fapiaos you receive from, I don't know, your professional services teams, from your marketing, from whatever you're doing, okay? From your landlord, all right? So be aware of this and realize that your processes need to get automated. We're going in the direction in China that everything eventually is going to be automated. So make sure you're very clear on your trade flows, your service flows, understanding how that all works to then create a standard operating procedure within your company. And make sure then you have the necessary record keeping of everything. So for example, do you have a proper record keeping of accounts receivables? Are you basing it on the Fapiaos being issued and when payment is going to be received? Who's following up with that? Whose responsibility is that? Doesn't have to be accounts, could also be sales. Okay, so it's really important to dictate who is responsible for payment follow-ups, or if you're dealing with the suppliers, who's responsible for that side of the supply chain, etc. Again, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat box. Now, one of the things I did highlight at the beginning of today's presentation is that with the fully digitalized e-Fapiao system, you can't hide from the government or the tax bureau anymore. When everything is online and everything is digitalized and you've got mobile apps being able to issue Fapiaos, terminals, computers, whatever, being able to issue, be aware that your tax risks might be increased, right? And that there is more availability to the tax bureau to verify in compliance within your own organization. Okay, so when all the systems get automated, banks, VAT, tax, whatever else, it becomes more of a transparent business. And I believe that is the direction that the Chinese government wants to go in, is that you operate a transparent business in China. Now, one thing I do recommend, and probably now is the time to do it, is to do regular tax health checks, just to make sure that you are on par and if nothing funny has been going on. This is really geared to people that have in-house finance teams, and they just want to do a check that everything is going well in terms of their corporate income tax obligations, VAT obligations, etc. Pay attention to your internal controls. That's something I can't emphasize more. Create these standard operating procedures. It can't just be up to the finance team. It has to be up together with all various departments or companies that are within your ecosystem. When you are doing these internal controls, the idea is that you're then going to identify what are the weaknesses that your business is suffering in terms of efficiency, in terms of optimization, etc. I have gone through a tax audit. It's really not fun. Even if in the end, they've only got good things to say about your business, you are always fearing the worst when you go through a tax audit and you panic. I don't recommend it for anyone. And quite frankly, it does take 2 to 3 months out of your life to deal with. So developing these standard operating procedures that you don't forget about transactions, you're following up accordingly, is really important. One thing I will highlight, if you are outsourcing your accounts to a provider, you need to create those internal controls. When you are working with an outsourced provider, they're not involved in the day-to-day discussions and day-to-day involvements of your business. You can't put the blame on them when they don't have complete transparency and clarity over your day-to-day operations. If you create standard operating procedures with them, that they are aware of what's happening within your business, this is where you can avoid tax investigations. But on top of that, you'll also get advice from them on how to improve those standard operating guidelines. First step is talk to your operational teams. What's the best practices? Involve then the administration departments in terms of creating those corporate governance guidelines. In the end of the day, we are, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, especially after having done this for over 20 years, heading in the direction of the eFapiao, the digitalized eFapiao system is wonderful. I can see all of my accountants from all different levels extremely excited by these new developments and this new modernness that is coming into the tax profession in China. In order to get the most out of the invoicing system, we are going into an area of accounting automation or finance automation, whether it is looking at how to reimburse expenses, how to track Fapiaos that have been issued, etc. So the goal is really to get on board with all of this and make sure you understand how it's working. Now, obviously, you're seeing this from the point of view of your own company. Think about it from the point of view of your suppliers and other companies that are actually also within your ecosystem. That's actually the end of today's presentation. There are no questions that have popped into the chat, but if you do have questions, you can write them into the chat. Happy to get them answered. I hope this gave you an overview of what is happening in 2024 right now with the whole digitalized e-invoice landscape. And if you do want to have a conversation, I'm happy to do that. I will send you a copy of the recording link, and we can set up a discovery call as well in case you've got any questions. Again, if you want to join our WeChat community, this is my QR code. Type Thrive in China to me, and I'll be more than happy to get you on board our community. We are having for the next 2 weeks a bit of a Easter break. And then from the 17th of April, we're starting again with our roundtable episodes. Just remember, you have to register individually for each of our roundtables. You can do that via our website at woodburnglobal.com/events. So I want to thank everybody for joining. If you do have any questions, like I said, you can type them in. There's still nothing that's popped in. But I do wish you a wonderful day. Take care and goodbye.